In an alternate reality, this was what people got instead of the Matrix. Hi, my name is June. Welcome to another review video on my channel. Today I will be talking about Equilibrium, which is a film that came out quite a long time ago, but I like it. Although, as you will tell with this review, I do have quite some issues with it, but it's one of these films that you can still like because you can see the potential of it. It wasn't a huge success. I can tell why. It's funny, this is the first time after at least over a decade that I've sat down and actually watched it. I can see a lot of the issues with it that I hadn't noticed previously. Equilibrium is set in a, well, not too distant future. I actually read a short brief statement by the director who said he didn't want to get tied down with all sorts of sci-fi technology and other things, so that's why he didn't set it at a specific time, and he also made sure to not really go into that aspect of it, which I think is a good idea. He wanted to focus on other things. You don't want to get bogged down by all sorts of gadgetry and how does this work, how does that work. So he described it as it's more of an alternate reality. In this film, humanity has had a Third World War, and after that they decided that the source of all this is human emotion. So they eradicated human emotion by forcing everyone to inject themselves with a drug called prosium, and it completely inhibits their emotions. That turns them into these mindless robots basically, and they all go about their daily life. They do have families, but merely for procreation's sake. There's no love there. It's all just about society, sustaining it and keeping it going. So our main character, he is what's called a grammaton cleric. They are basically the highest form of judiciary that you get. They are completely judge, jury and executioner in that sense. So they are highly trained, I'll come to that a bit later, and they are meant to find these sense offenders. So they're meant to find people who have emotions, show emotions, people who have stopped taking their prosium injections every day. And our story starts off with John Preston, that's Christian Bale's character. He has a partner who is played by Sean Bean. There will be spoilers in this review, so if you want to see the film yourself before, best go and watch it and then return to this point. Sean Bean is his partner. He's also a cleric, and the film starts off with them being at I'll call it a crime scene because to them it's obviously a crime. You've got these people holed up in what they call the Nether, which is the war-torn suburbs just outside their city. And you've got this group of rebels. They've got, it's funny, and this is what I like about the film. The things that they're hoarding, the things that makes them illegal, is not any kind of weapons or drugs. It's paintings, works of art, books, just figures, statuettes, anything that someone has put emotion into, basically. And I really like this concept. So the film starts off with them finding this rebel group, and they overwhelm them, of course. You are introduced to the clerics' fighting skills. It's called the Gun Kata. The clerics, they've trained themselves so much that they perform, you could call it a dance with their guns. It's explained in the film that this is all based on scientific analysis. They've looked at many situations where there have been gunfights, and they've figured out with all the maths what the best approach is, as in the geometrical arrangement of the enemies. So basically they've analysed all these situations, and they know exactly that people are usually standing, behind the door or over this way and at this angle over there. So it's all very mathematical. You see a very simple depiction of this in the film, which explains it very, very well. At the same time, the cleric moves in order to not be a sitting duck and an easy target. So it's both maximising his efficiency in hitting the targets as well as avoiding the other people trying to shoot him. It's a great idea. It's done so well visually. It's probably what I assume many people love most about the film, and you just go, I want more of this. They should have taken this and put it in some big blockbustery film that was actually a success, because you want to see more of it. It's such a genius design. So they show you this early on, all of the group of rebels, they're holed up in the room, and John Preston, so again that's Christian Bale, he just bursts into the room. It's completely dark, he's in the centre of it. It's shot in a very, very good way, so you've only got the only flashes of light are the guns blazing, and it's a bit like stop motion. I really like that. And so you've got him, he's crossing his arms, he's shooting in any sort of direction where some assailant is or would be. And so it's demonstrated immediately that they are highly effective killing machines. So what happens, his partner, Sean Bean, I've forgotten the character's name, he's only in it briefly. If you know Sean Bean, this won't come as a surprise to you. Now, he takes a book with him, he explains that he wants to deliver it personally to headquarters. He actually, during the night, he leaves the city, goes into the Nethers, and he reads this book. John Preston follows him, he's aware of this, he notices that something's not quite right with him, and he sees that his partner's become a sense offender, and they have a brief discussion about dreams, and ultimately he's shot by John, which is obviously done completely emotionless, and immediately there's already a replacement partner, because why not, you would want to be highly efficient. What happens then is John himself, he accidentally breaks one of the prosium vials that he injects every day. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't get a replacement in time, so he starts feeling emotions. Obviously this prosium wears off rather quickly. He starts feeling emotions on his missions, so he's out trying to find rebels, etc. He's reacting to things that they find, all the contraband objects. The most strong reaction he's got is to hearing Ludwig van Beethoven's music, which brings tears to his eyes. His partner starts to become suspicious, and on the next few missions you have these interactions where John will always try to save some small aspect. So he also, at first he grabs a book, then there's a puppy that he tries to grab, and his partner becomes increasingly more suspicious of him. He wants to help the rebellion, so he's wanting to switch sides. At the same time, he's acting as a double agent, you could say, because he's reporting back to headquarters and he's volunteering to do exactly that, to find the leadership of the underground and eradicate them for the system. What happens then is he devises a plan with the underground where they are sort of offered up as prisoners to help get John in to see the father, who is the head figure of this society, and the hope is that he can assassinate him, because the father, due to being this head figure, he is never outdoors, he's never in public. So that's done. John gets all dressed up, he's taken to see father. The thing is though, what he didn't realise is that he's being played, as in they knew all along what he was doing. So his new partner is actually the one who double-crossed him. He breaks free, manages to kill all the guards surrounding him, kill all the guards in the palace, manages to quickly dispatch of his new partner in a short and quick katana fight, and then ultimately goes up against Father, the head figure. Our hero is obviously, apparently, the best fighter in the whole of Libya, and he ultimately wins the fight against Father. And the film ends with him looking out at a sunrise while the public, whose prosium supply has been interrupted, they rebel against the system. You see them taking up arms. It's quite unfortunate. This film came out not too long after The Matrix, actually, and it was so bleedingly obvious to me that when you compare the two, it seems like a Matrix clone. Now, I'm pretty sure that's not how it was written. Although the story does borrow from quite a few things, like Brave New World in 1984, I'm still a bit disappointed, because ultimately it just feels like a very good B-movie. You've got a lot of elements that work really well, that I really like about the film, but it seems that it just can't get out of the mediocrity of the whole. So you've got really great acting from Christian Bale. He does a magnificent job. You see him going from completely emotionless at the start to feeling slight emotion, and it's good because he really makes you think about these things. And someone who for the first time feels emotion, to see the wonder of a snow globe and everything drifting around in there, or as they show in the film, Ludwig van Beethoven's music. To me that makes absolute sense, so I loved the way how it was affecting him gradually. And then he also has the scenes where, although he is already a sense offender, he's out on a raid and he has to act completely emotionless. And so I can see all these nuances. The world they've created here is really interesting. So, and I looked up, they even filmed a lot of it in Germany because they used old World War II era architecture of the Nazi era buildings. And they work really well in this set. Generally, the film is very, very bleak, and I do believe that this is one of the things that really kept them from having a large audience. It's just a bit too bleak. You've got this oppressive system that they depict. It goes all the way into the families. You do have families, they obviously procreate because they have to keep up society, of course. But even the children are obviously taking this prosium, and you see these scenes with John's son where he's basically being interrogated, and you really hate the little guy, his son, because he just seems like a real bastard. So that means this is how it's like in that system. So you've even got kids, and they do show kids trying to spot everyone. Obviously, it makes sense, they've been given this prosium from birth, so they have been completely raised without emotion. It would make sense that they are really good at spotting emotion because it'll be really alien to them. So the design of everything is great. The grammaton clerics, they wear these cloaks, which again look very reminiscent of well, okay, the later Matrixes. What I really don't like design-wise are the other random guards, because they're all wearing these very normal leather jackets with motorcycle helmets. To me, I'm sorry, they look kind of stupid. I really don't like the design of them. They should have done something different. So where they went wrong is, well, basically with the story as well. It's too obvious, the whole thing, because you watch John, he goes through all these steps that you've just seen his partner go through. So he does exactly the same things, and what I found most irritating, okay, it might be difficult to react once you can finally feel emotion, but he does it in the most stupid and dangerous situations where, for instance, he's just looking at some evidence at headquarters, and he's smelling a piece of fabric and he's reacting to it. Although you can see in the background that there's a person there who could see that and report him. So you've got all these situations that are a bit too silly, and it's not subtle at all. And that's what makes it a B movie basically. It's just that the script is too weak to really elevate this material. I would have enjoyed it more if they'd gone a sort of Blade Runner-esque way, where they have a sort of cat and mouse game of him not being too obvious with it, slowly discovering his emotions, and them, I mean the system, having some hint at somebody being an offender, but they're trying to find them. I've got other wee gripes, like for instance he's in a cell talking to this woman who used to be an item with his former partner, and he's showing a lot of emotion in this cell as well. He's reacting to various things. And surely in a fascist state like this you would have video surveillance of some kind, because they do have the technology for that. That's shown throughout the film. This is basically like the Gestapo's wet dream. Everyone's reporting on each other and everyone's wary of each other. So surely this would not be possible in a public space like that, or at least anywhere where you're not at home. The next thing is these I've already mentioned, these motor helmet guys, these basic guards, especially at the end when John just overwhelms them all. It's really silly. They literally line up for him to just shoot them down, and that's also where it comes apart a bit. The Gun Kata stuff is amazing. When you see it in effect, it's some of the best stuff I've ever seen. It really makes you excited as an action fan. I've never seen anything like it, or since really, that I liked so much. The only thing comparable would be Bullet Time in the Matrix. So I like that. Pretty much at the same time they came up with their own thing. That to me at least is just as impressive. The problem is where they take it sometimes, like in that last scene. It's a huge long corridor, and it's okay when they explain that he's doing it while he's completely surrounded by enemies. That makes sense. He's standing in the middle. So when you've got people, so he's here, when you've got people left and right next to him, they can't really shoot across without maybe accidentally hitting their own guys. So I get that, why he's in a very good position there while he's taking everyone out. But in the end scene, he's in this long corridor, he's at one end, all the guards are at the other end. Surely if all 20 of them just pointed their guns in roughly his direction and pulled the trigger, that would have been it. He would have been dead. I mean, okay, suspense of disbelief, it's a film, but this just felt really too silly because these guards will have training themselves, you know. And while he's quick at dispatching them, he's not that quick. I mean, they even make a point of really doing the editing in a way that shows you one kill after the next. So it does take time to do all these killings. So I really didn't like that bit. Them lining up and just being dispatched so easily. But I did love it when John's completely surrounded by people and he does his gun kata thing. To me, it really is quite believable because he does it in such an efficient way that it would be difficult for people to react in the right way, especially because obviously they're not expecting a cleric to turn on his own people. What is good, I suppose, is they use all the gun kata stuff sparingly, because if they did it all the time, it would get very boring, I would assume. So it is used very well. It's unfortunate that towards the end, these scenes, they're a lot less believable. So it's like they were a bit rushed too much. They just didn't make as much sense. So after the huge row of guards that are dispatched, in the next room he's got this sort of personal bodyguard. And what's really stupid is Johnny's unarmed. He's got no guns, no weapons, nothing. And what do? They surround him, but they come so close to him. What happens, of course, he grabs one guy's sword and just has a go at all of them. Why do they come so close? And then the next amusing thing is he has this gunfight with Father where they've both got a gun. They're basically doing the Neo and Agent Smith fight from the Matrix, where the two of them are in the air, they're trying to shoot each other while wrestling with each other. And you basically have the same thing here, gun kata wrestling, and trying to do that. When I saw that, I mean, it was cool, it looked good, but I couldn't help but think of the Matrix and I thought it was just a clone in this instance. So to summarise, it's an enjoyable film, I really like it, but I feel that there are many elements that work really well in this film when you take them individually. It's just the way that it was put together, and most of all the script is just too weak to make this more than just a B movie. One last thing I forgot to talk about earlier. This is pretty much the only film where a lie detector test is actually really useful. They use the polygraph in two ways in this film. Both sides actually. You have the underground rebels who use it to show that John is actually feeling emotion, because it's rather easy to do that. And then you have it the other way around, where the headquarters of the Tetragrammaton, they use it to show that he does not have any emotion, which he obviously fails. Because at that point he is not taking his inhibitor at all anymore. So overall, I would recommend that you see this film. I find it enjoyable. Let me know in the comments down below whether you liked it, what you found enjoyable about it, in which alternate reality this pushed Matrix away and was made instead, maybe, I don't know. I could imagine that this would be a thing. With some tweaks, I do believe they could have made this into a massive film, really. That concludes my review. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel for future updates, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Come for the B movie, stay for the Gun Kata. Why couldn't Gun Kata have been part of a much better, bigger film?